burglars got away. That's also a good thing. That's good that people get involved. And apparently, according to his statement, he was driving to Target. Now, he's driving to Target, it's raining, and what does he do? Okay, he calls the police suspicious, but then he tracks this guy down. He tracks Trayvon Martin. He doesn't just call the police and, okay, stay in your car. He keeps following him. And then he goes even further. He gets out of the car. So he sees the victim, he's suspicious of the victim, and then he calls 911, non-emergency. Now, all those actions, no crime's been committed there. There's no crime right there. But it's important to realize this is what led to Trayvon Martin being dead. The defendant, 28 years old, 5'7", 204 pounds, and armed. Now let me stop right here. He had the right to bear arms. We live in this great country, and the Second Amendment allows people to carry a firearm. And he had a permit. He had a right to have a concealed permit, to have a concealed firearm. So again, he is not violating any law. The victim in this case, 17 years old, 5'11", 158 pounds. And he was unarmed. Well, I guess if you would consider Skittles the tea or what, I'm not trying to make light of it, but the defense is saying, oh, it's that concrete, you know, like, and we'll talk about the concrete. But what started this? Assumptions. Incorrect assumptions on the part of one individual. And again, that's the last photograph we have of Trayvon Martin. This innocent 17-year-old kid was profiled as a criminal. To quote the defendant, and pardon my language, and Mrs. Zimmerman didn't scream that out, and so the defense will argue, well, that shows that he didn't have any ill will or hatred. No, I would submit to you that he uttered it under his breath, and that itself indicates ill will and hatred, because he was speaking to the 911 or non-emergency person. But what he was doing is he was verbalizing what he was thinking. And that's why that's important. Because in his mind, he already assumed certain things. You recall the prior calls? We brought in 5. I think defense put in another one, 6 within the last 5-6 months, where crimes have been committed in the neighborhood. He was sick and tired of it. But the law doesn't say, okay, you know, take the law into your own hands. Oh, I'm sorry, I got the wrong guy. Oh, I'm so sorry, I thought he was a criminal. Mr. Martin, Tracy Martin, Sabrina Fulton, I am so sorry, I made a mistake. I didn't realize that Trayvon Martin was minding his own business. I am terribly sorry. You know, the law doesn't say that. The law talks about accountability and responsibility for one's actions. And that's what we're asking for in this case. Hold the defendant responsible for his actions. Hold him accountable for what he did. Because if the defendant hadn't assumed that, Trayvon Martin would have watched the basketball game. George Zimmerman, I'm assuming, would have gone to Target and did whatever he does on Sunday evenings, and we wouldn't be here. The law doesn't allow people to take the law into their own hands. It doesn't allow, quite frankly, even the police to take the law into their own hands. The police had gotten called out there, they would have done they would have, okay, what are you doing here? Can I ask you what you're doing? Do you mind telling me? And under the law, they're allowed to ask somebody that's walking the streets. The person can ignore them or not. That's not a crime. Most people say, listen, I'm right here. I'm going home. You want to come? But this defendant didn't give Trayvon Martin a chance. Recall the testimony of this defendant in terms of the interviews. And I'm going to play certain parts for you. But recall how he says that at one point that Trayvon Martin is circling his car. And my point in saying that is, number one, you've got to determine whether that's true. But let's presume that part is true. And he says he's got something in his hands. Why does this defendant get out of the car if he thinks that Trayvon Martin is a threat to him? Why? Why? Because he's got a gun. He's got the equalizer. He's going to take care of it. He's a wannabe cop. He's going to take care of it. He's got a gun. And my God, it's his community. And he's not going to put up with it. And if the police are taking too long to respond, he's going to handle it. Now, did he go over there and say, I'm going to kill this kid? No. This isn't first-degree murder. It's not premeditated. But his actions resulted in the death of a 17-year-old boy. Did they not? I mean, do you have an innocent man before you? Is it really self-defense when you follow somebody? First of all, when you profile somebody incorrectly, when you automatically label him a criminal because he's acting in your mind, in his mind, as suspicious, because he's wearing a hoodie, because it's raining and he's walking the streets or not walking fast enough. I thought in this great country, no matter how stupid we might think somebody's acting because it's raining and he's walking or doing whatever, that's not against the law. He did have his hoodie on. It was raining off and on. What's ironic in this case, and what I want to spend some time talking with you about, is the defendant's statements. Because you might think, well, hold on. You're the state. What are you putting on his self-serving statements when he's denying committing a crime, when he's saying it's self-defense? We wanted to tell you all the evidence. We wanted to put in all the witnesses that saw something of value out there. Because we wanted you to get the truth. We wanted you to get the complete story. But in doing so, I want to analyze, dissect with you the defendant's statements. Why was it necessary for the defendant to exaggerate everything that happened? Why was it that it took him a while, even at the very end, he kept denying something? What? Obviously, he kept denying that he intentionally killed him, that it was, he said self-defense. But what was important even before that? What did he keep denying? That he followed him. Because the defendant knew that if he admitted he followed him, then that showed that ill will, hatred. And that's what we have here, ladies and gentlemen. That's why he kept talking about, I didn't know the name of the street. I was looking for an address. Remember that video? And I'm going to show it to you again, the part where he's walking and he goes to the detectives, like the investigators, like there's some fools or something. Look, this is the back of the houses here. There's no address. Right in front of him is an address. And by the way, there's only 3 streets. How difficult can it be? And he's the neighborhood watch guy. He's been living there 4 years. And he takes his dog down to that dog walk. But he doesn't know the names of the street. He doesn't know the main street that you go in. Because, see, when he admits something like that, then it proves one thing, that he was following him. That he had profiled him and he was following him. And that shows his guilt. Because it shows that his actions led, unfortunately, to the death of Trayvon Martin. So you can't just